What's up, guys? This is your host, Danny Baylor, Danny Cakes, and you are listening to the Immeasurably More podcast. All right, guys, thank you for joining me today. Last episode, I talked about how I'm learning to endure my pain and the power that comes from it. So, real quick, I want to personally invite you guys. I also do a Bible study every single Tuesday at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if this is some content that you love and you feel connected with, then I would love for you to join me every single Tuesday on that. And you can find more details about it on my Instagram at Danny Cakes, DANNNI Cakes, and I hope to see you guys there. So, today I'll begin to explain to you the mentality I've created in order to face my pain and my best to overcome it. So, my pain looks a little something like this: feeling insignificant, experiencing loss, hurt, abandonment, feeling overlooked, misunderstood, loneliness, disrespect, feeling devalued, and probably the hardest concept to wrap my brain around is that it doesn't quite seem to end. So there will always be challenges in our lives, right? Especially as we seek growth. Maybe you're asking, how can pain become powerful? The best way that I can explain pain is referenced through CrossFit. If you don't know, it's basically a high intensity workout with a variety of movements like gymnastics, cardio, and Olympic lifting. I actually love it when people come up to me and say, "You do CrossFit? Those workouts look so intense. You're crazy. You're out of your mind." I'm like, I know. I don't want to be like everybody else. I actually love that it's not easy, and I get to bust my butt and prove what I'm really capable of every single day. So I'll be making plenty of references to my mindset and the way that I tackle pain through CrossFit. Because the thing about this sport is it's just as much mental as it is physical, if not more. I remember my very first workout. It was about 10 years ago, in fact, about a year outside of high school. And remember, the only sport that I actually took part in was cheerleading. I took pride in cheer. It was some of the most fun memories of my high school experience, but I was mocked all the time for it by literally everyone. I felt like I was always just seen as this dumb blonde cheerleader to them, even though I always took myself so seriously. So, with CrossFit at my first class, after I experienced that, I knew I was gonna be doing this for the rest of my life. I fell in love. I knew I had the mental stamina to conquer this battle every single time I walked in the doors. And as I began to learn my Olympic lifts, I had this immediate solid belief: I'm made for this. I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be and hopefully taken seriously for the first time. It's insane because these workouts are extremely difficult, but it's the opportunity to ask yourself every single day, what are you really made of? When we experience pain and discomfort, there is no pain like a mid workout, fatigued, out of breath, muscles burning, on the brink of puking, physical pain experienced in a CrossFit workout. It's actually a physical sign where your body basically sends signals to our brains, right? Like, stop this, you're uncomfortable, what are you doing? Can you just quit? The point is, this is where you determine what are you really made of. So I will walk you guys through a quick process of what my workouts typically look like. Mental prep. Okay, what am I about to do? Here comes the time clock. 3, 2, 1, round one. Okay, this isn't so bad. I can make it. Now the burn settles in. You're halfway and thinking, okay, I have to do this a second time, and now I'm twice as exhausted. I love to get really deep when I think about my workouts. And I actually remember one of my coaches preaching to during a workout is basically the 3/4 mark. At the point where you decide, does my effort really matter? Do I slow down because I'm literally getting burnt out here? And he said something along the lines of, anybody can perform strong and fresh out the gate. So how do you show up when you're tired? Oof. Oof is right. So who do you decide to be when you've been taking a beating? How do you decide that your effort matters? This decision right here is the point of your breakthrough. Do you give up? Do you slow down? Or do you push harder? Your effort matters. It matters when everything and everyone is telling you to quit. You guys, pain forces us to decide who we are, how we decide to show up despite our circumstances, and we aren't surprised when discomfort hits because we know we are made for this time. So there you are, having pushed through all the neurological signs to give up, and yet you didn't. You pressed on. You did what 99% of others aren't willing to do because the 99% doesn't get to carry the feeling of victory that now you hold. And that is something that no one can ever take from you. I remember being at my very first CrossFit competition in between workouts with the hardest one to come yet, right? They always do that. They want to see what we're made of. So I'm cringing as I'm getting worked on by one of the massage therapists. I think about all the time I have to shave off the calluses from my hands and possibly what I'm going to feel like tomorrow once I'm through the worst of it. All these things we put our bodies through for this kind of training. And I remember thinking, why? Why do I do this? Because I can handle it, because I was made for this, because I am not mediocre. Not that I have anything to prove to anyone but myself, but there's almost a high or addiction that comes with conquering it. You remember exactly what it feels like to suffer, you remember your mentality through it all, and then finally reflect on the fact that you did that. And all you can think about, oddly, is how you can't wait to do it again because the feeling of triumph through it all made you recognize what you're made of and that you are now stronger than you were 20 minutes ago. And you'll do anything to give yourself that opportunity to prove yourself again and again. I think my greatest fear has always been a disappointment, to be a disappointment, but I think I'm most fearful of disappointing myself. And to me, truly that means God because how could I not step into more when I know I'm fully capable of doing so? And I'm talking about like a healthy expectation. If we have an expectation to be something more, we can't act surprised when it's not easy, when it comes with trials. First Peter 4:12 says, "Dear friends, don't be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come to you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice inasmuch as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed." If we choose to change and evolve, if we choose to seek righteousness, when we step out and discover that we are worthy of immeasurably more and we put up a fight for it, pain is inevitable. So don't be surprised when you're walking in God's will, when you're working towards more. Being a Christian doesn't exactly mean that we're given a get out of jail free card when it comes to hard times in life. But there are two kinds of suffering. I'm very experienced in both and now know the difference. I'm talking about living, suffering inside and outside the will of God. So let's start with outside. Living a life based on what I think is best for me, what I think I want. Prime example, my previous relationship, right? You guys, I've had flashbacks all week of these random memories, just traveling and honestly, just like day to day things, the weekends we spent together. And I was so miserable. I am so sad to realize like how uncomfortable I was all the time. And these emotions kept like flooding back to me this week. I don't even know what brought them on, but I just realized, how, like I said, how uncomfortable I was. And I put myself through that. I didn't belong there. And yet I allowed myself to keep fighting for something that was not in God's will for me and his plan for me. So much, it got to the point where I became depressed and burnt out. You guys, my spirit was spent because God is thinking, Danielle, you did not belong there. So come with me. Now that I feel like I've been in this race for the last couple of years, running towards God's will for me, with no one else to please, nothing holding me back, but you better bet there's still been some of the most painful moments I've ever experienced. Starting with the fact that I had to let go of my entire comfort zone in order to move on, but it didn't mean it wasn't still going to be incredibly heartbreaking to go through. I walked away from my comfort zone, but also giving up on the dream that I had for us that I knew would never happen. Yet, this kind of suffering is different. Maybe in the moment, which can feel like a couple days long, or even a month or two or a few, I know I'm walking in the right direction. I know my suffering is significant, and that is so much more tolerable because there is hope and there is a promise tied to God's will, tied to this discomfort of my suffering for living righteously. To be honest, I hope we continue to experience pain. I want you to understand that when it gets hard, that is normal. If you're uncomfortable, if you're in pain, you're doing something right. You're making a change, and that's something to be proud of. Pain is the point where your breakthrough happens, and you can handle it. You were made for it. So make the decision to face it. And we might as well face it head on. I recently learned I have to allow myself some grace to feel it. Sometimes I feel like it means I'm stronger if I just press through it and ignore it. But I mean, I need to actually accept the emotions that are tied with the pain that I'm experiencing because, well, I'm human. And even as a leader, I'm human. But there has to be a point where I decide to put my big girl pants back on, put on back that brave face, and see God with, okay, now what? I think it's actually incredibly ironic because it feels like my pain is almost what fuels me. So much of it is what drives me to be better. All the hurt, all the disrespect, all the loss, all the incredibly impossible moments. Not only am I aware I'm able to get through it, but I'm thriving off of it now because I know what the outcome reveals. And now that I've become to tap into the strength of my true identity, which fully depends on the strength given by God, I occasionally have this mindset that says, bring it, because that only means bringing out a better version of me. So choose your pain. Remember that you have a choice. I did, and I just ignored it. Recognize that you have everything it takes to endure the pain. Your potential depends on it. You are not where you are by accident. God wastes no time, He makes no mistakes. No matter where you are in life, what you conquer, there will always be an opportunity to level up your pain tolerance. So take pride. This isn't happening to you, it's happening for you. Our potential depends on our pain. It's worth our pain and it's greater than our pain. So, how do we battle pain? Pep talks. I'm sure I've talked about this previously a little before. I'm talking conversations between me and me, which really means God's voice breaking through my true self, speaking to my flesh. It's insane how powerful our thinking becomes. You might not have control over your situations and your pain, but you do have control over the way that you think. One of my favorite ways of thinking is to referring to as talk yourself into it. Because whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. And to be intentional about the way that you approach the action that comes with it. For example, I literally talked myself into this last night, basically coaching myself the way that I would someone else through their workout. Coming up on the end of my workout, I have to do these max ring muscle ups, and I got halfway through the reps that I wanted to potentially hit, and I failed one. It was the first one that I failed the entire workout. Now I had a choice. I could let myself become discouraged. I'm just tired. It's not there. It's not going to happen. It's not today. But I let myself recover for a moment mentally. Okay, so here's the acceptance of the hurt we're allowed to feel, right? But there wasn't much time left. In come the pep talk. Stand up. You were made for this. Be intentional about the entire process of this movement and make it happen. We did not come here to give up. You have more left. Fight for it because what's the reward and not? I will tell you, it's going to be regret. So I fought for one more rep. Completing it took everything in me until I was honestly physically sick to my core, trying to lock out at the top of this ring dip those last few inches. Now that sounds like a happy ending in a way, right? But what about the times that we fail again? What if I hadn't completed it? Do we assume there's something wrong with God because things didn't go our way in our timing? The way I coach through times like these is that it mattered. You giving effort matters. Trying and failing matters. Showing up in every single day, even when it hurt, that matters because you're creating a stamina for yourself. Even though you can't see the fruit of your labor or your pain, God is for us. And as long as we walk in His will, we will see it come into fruition. That's why we call it faith. Even in your failures and moments that you may feel weak, there are micro tears going on in your spiritual muscles that you just might not see yet. I'm so excited to dive deeper, even though it honestly terrifies me every single time to come on here and share my heart with you guys. But I know the value that this would have brought me in some of the most vulnerable times in my life. And so I am so honored and willing to share that with you. And I would love to go into the background of my faith, more about relationships, my mentality when it comes to business, and how I approach my workouts and all these things. But I would love to know your guys' feedback. So please feel free to reach out. Let me know what stands out to you the most in these podcasts. What's the best way that I can connect with you? Because ultimately, that is my heart. That is my biggest desire. And I want nothing more than for you to feel like you know me personally, that we have what feels like a friendship. So please continue to give me your guys' feedback and share this that with somebody that you know will be encouraged by it. So don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. And of course, share this, repost it. And so I will leave you guys with this. Romans 8:18. I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us.